Hi, welcome to Off-Script Film Review. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're talking about Pathaan. For everybody out there, we saw RRR, and they saw us, and they were like, you guys don't know anything about Indian cinema. Well, we're back, all right? We're here to learn and grow, and hopefully tell you whether or not Pathaan is worth your time, because it's a pretty rad movie. We're also going to talk about the Super Bowl, a Super Bowl-sized trailer park. We've talked about the Super Bowl trailers in the past. It always runs the show long. We have no less than 11 top tier, right? Teasers, trailers, big game spots for you to see, for us to talk about. We can't actually run them on stream if you're watching on Facebook because we'll get copyright flagged and you'll never see this video again. But we're going to tell you about them and whether or not they're worth your time, or at least the movies inside of them. We're going to talk about Disney. Disney's in a weird spot right now. They just declared a bunch of loss of revenue and they're cutting jobs and subs are leaving Disney Plus. What's going on? Before we get to all that, we need to get to the news. And before the news, we need to talk about some personal news. I am moving. You might see boxes here in the house and some stuff is missing. And also, Andy's got a cold. We're like half a show this week, but we got a whole...
We're going to make it.
To get through. I know. We're going to make it. We're going to be fine. You can tell I'm jazzed now. I drank like 2 cups of coffee. I'm ready to fly. So let's get into it. Our first story this week. A Spider-Man live action series is coming to Amazon. What? Spider-Man, most people I think is part of the Disney universe, but it is not. Spider-Man is owned by Sony. Sony has penned a deal with Amazon to bring Spider-Man Noir to Amazon as a series. Andy, what is Spider-Man Noir? What is it?
So those who saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse would have seen Spider-Man Noir, who was voiced by Nicolas Cage in that movie. And he's in black and white, funny enough, in that film. And that's kind of that what is part of like this Marvel Noir universe that was created back around 2011. Spider-Man Noir lives in New York City during the Great Depression. He's older, kind of grizzled. He's bitten by a spider. It's very similar to the Spider-Man story. He's bitten by a spider and an artifact and, develops these superpowers. But it's 1920s, 1930s. era, big trench coats and fedoras and all that kind of thing. And so this is going to be turned into a live action series, which is pretty crazy.
I don't know a lot about Spider-Man Noir, but I do like Spider-Man and I do like Noir. And for what it's worth, in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the character's portrayed pretty neat by like Nick Cage voicing him. Yeah, he's black and white. He wears a trench coat and a fedora. Got kind of a cool old school goggles, right? And I would presume, like most Spider-Man variations, right, he may not have all of the typical expected powers of Peter Parker. Maybe he's not doing as much web swinging. Maybe the buildings weren't as tall in New York in the 1930s. Maybe he's a bit more of a detective, right? Leans on that Spidey sense. Whatever's going on, slightly different powers, slightly different Spider-Man. I think it sounds pretty good. One thing I am worried about is this is coming from Sony, the studio that made Venom and the studio that made Morbius. It may not be like an awesome spin on it, right? But they also made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly. This is the team that brought us that movie. Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They also did the Lego movie. They're seasoned at Spider-Man, and we don't really know what kind of tone this will take on. But since it's live action, I imagine it'll probably be a little bit more kind of detective noir style, maybe a little bit darker. That sort of style.
No numbers on how many episodes it's going to be. We don't know when exactly it's coming out, but keep an eye out for more on Spider-Man Noir coming to Amazon. I'm surprised it's not Disney Plus, but good for Amazon, I guess, pulling some big numbers. It's interesting to see Sony kind of flexing that property outside of just like their direct work with Disney and their theatrical like endeavors, right?
Yeah, again, Sony bought the property in the late 90s when Marvel was nearly bankrupt, and they've held their claws onto it ever since. And part of the deal of having the rights is that they have to create media. They have to make movies and TV and they have to keep going. Otherwise, the rights they'll lose the rights. So they have to keep making stuff.
And speaking of continuing to make stuff, Vin Diesel has announced his next project after the Fast and the Furious is done, after Fast X's follow-up, which I assume is Fast 11, Fast Forever. He is making a new Riddick movie, The Chronicles of Riddick, which I've never seen. Andy, what are these movies?
So the first one was called Pitch Black, and it came out in the year 2000. So it's 23 years old. I saw this movie. I may have seen it on VHS or DVD.
No better way to age a film than I think I saw it on VHS.
Yes, I definitely rented it, and it was a cult classic at the time. It was a small sci-fi film, and in Pitch Black, Vin Diesel is like this prisoner that's being transported in space, and the spaceship crash lands on this strange planet, and there's monsters that are going to kill everyone, but we have to release Riddick because he's a war veteran or whatever, and so they do, and he. He's kind of a anti-hero, bit of a gray character, and he helps this group of survivors survive the night, survive these monsters that are on the planet. And it was a small little cult classic, and that really launched his career, because then he went on to do Fast and Furious, and we all know the rest of the story. And then they made 2 more films, which I have not seen. They have The Chronicles of Riddick, and then I think just maybe Pitch Black, or just Riddick. That was the third one.
Riddick in 2013.
So they expanded the lore. I don't know what they did, but this film, the fourth one, they'll be going back to that original planet they kind of crash land on in the original Pitch Black, where some things are different. Riddick's got to save the day. He's in that movie. He had this whole thing like his eyes glow and he can see in the dark, and I think that's the thing. The planet's like in eternal nighttime, and he's like the only one who can see in the dark. So like that was part of. There was a whole thing about his eyes in that movie. The original Pitch Black is worth watching.
Okay, all right. Well, I do. I
don't know if I sold it or not.
No. Yeah, you did all right. Yeah, no. Pitch Black came out in 2000, and that was like right getting up at the height of like exciting turns in cinema. Right, moving to digital, The Matrix, and Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace, the South Park movie. Like exciting things are going on, and Pitch Black just kind of sneaks in as a low budget thing. But ultimately gets some attention. Chronicles of Riddick comes out in 2004, and that's right around like The Matrix really getting into its heyday, right? We're getting into like the leather-clad gunfighting stuff with like the mythical heroes like Aeon Flux and Ultraviolet, and that Christian Bale movie where where he does gun kata and Equilibrium, right?
Equilibrium, yeah.
Yeah. So Chronicles of Riddick like had some heat, and then in 2013, Riddick comes out, and like. I for what it's worth, I haven't seen any of these movies. This is just what I have identified from the internet.
I would
They're
recommend
all on Peacock right now, which I guess I should maybe sub and watch, like so I could get an idea of what the heck's going on in these.
It's worth watching the first one. It's a little bit of sci-fi horror. Again, it is taking pages out of things like The Matrix, but it was a little bit different. It's got this sci-fi setting. These survivors trying to survive like this eternal night on this planet. Riddick's the only one who could see them and see in the dark and kind of save the day. And it's a good little film, and I think it had a cult following back in the day.
It's funny, you can see, like looking at them on the internet, you can see the arc of the titling going the way of like Indiana Jones. First Indiana Jones is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Second one is Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. Third one is Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. They work his name into all of them. Same thing with Rambo, right? First one's First Blood, then you work in Rambo. All subsequent entries feature his name. Riddick's got the same thing. First one's Pitch Black. Second one, everyone after that has the word Riddick in it. It's gotta have the carry the torch for like the mythological hero. So you'd recommend, I guess, Pitch Black?
I would recommend at least the first. I haven't seen the other two. I think those probably just go bigger on the action and lore. But the first one was, I mean, like I said, I think it was one of these small, like straight to DVD releases that just kind of got a following and spawned 2 sequels.
Well,
we should definitely do a watch party.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, all right, I can get into that. It was about to be sequel 3 with Riddick Furya. This is coming from Vin Diesel and filmmaker David Twohy, who I don't actually know. It's being produced under Diesel's One Race Films banner, which is kind of his own thing. I would bet, if anything, this is from the studio that made Bloodshot, right? Like this is Diesel's like personal thing. Hey man, who knows? Maybe it'll be sick. Like I haven't seen any of these movies, but like I hear the Riddick series is kind of rad. I know there was a cool video game that I never I played the demo back in the day. I think there's some juice here, right? And if anything, like I guess I'm glad to see him jumping into something that's a little familiar after the Fast series is done, because I I think we're all expecting him to be hurt a little bit after that's over, because that's his baby, right? Like the Fast series is like the Vin Diesel special.
Yeah, that's probably what's happening here. Is he sees the twilight of the Fast and Furious series, and it's like, I gotta keep working. I need something else. What do I got in the bag? And he's got Riddick.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe a watch party. Maybe as we come up on this, we'll do a review of Pitch Black. That might be a good time. Back and revisit that. But speaking of work, continuing to work, Alec Baldwin updates. I feel weird like talking about this week after week after week, but it just keeps like the snow.
It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre.
It keeps rolling downhill, picking up more sticks and mud and rocks and turning into this like ugly mass of news. Alec Baldwin's Rust to resume filming with new and old crew. The Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, who was horrifically killed on the set of Rust, is being replaced for the rest of the feature. They're gonna pick up production. Andy, I can't believe they're gonna keep making this movie. Like, I guess I'm not that surprised, but like, it just feels gross to me, right?
Yeah, I love the second sentence in this. It says, plans to finish the film come amid the prosecution of Baldwin for manslaughter. Multiple lawsuits from former. It's just like, oh my God, like this man's gonna be going on trial, and he's gonna be like shooting scenes between trial days. It's insane, but movies are expensive. I'm sure people put up a lot of money to get it done, and you can't just shut down production. I mean, you could, but you're probably gonna owe a lot of money, or you're gonna cost people a lot of money, and that's just the world we live in. And so they're moving forward with it, and it's really bizarre because like Helena Hutchinson's husband, his widower, he's like going to be listed as an executive producer, and also they're doing a documentary about her and about her death alongside this as well, which he's also like, the family is kind of benefiting off her death at this point, and I don't know if that's part of the compensation, but I mean, there seems to be no tears left over it. It's really bizarre. The other thing, the assistant director, Joel Souza, who was shot, but like he was standing behind Helena Hutchinson, and he was shot also with the same bullet, but he was not seriously injured. He is coming back to finish to direct the film, and I was like, you were literally shot on set, and your cinematographer died, and you're coming back to direct? Like that's just so bizarre to me. Show must go on.
I really wish we had an idea of how much of the film was completed before they announced that they were going to resume production. Because if it was like, if you guys just needed like reshoots, that's one thing, right? Okay, you strike up a couple sets for a month, and you shoot some quick pickups, you round it out, you put out the movie. But like, the fact that information's not in here tells me like they probably have a lot of it left to shoot. And I get it. Like, a movie's a big investment, right? It would be silly to just put all that money into making something and then never actually have it come out. We've seen action like that from studios like DC, who put out whole features like the Batgirl movie, and then they just decided at the last minute, you know what? We're just not going to run it. So I get it. And Rust is a smaller feature, right? Like, it's independent. Before now, I would have said Rust is like destined to be on Tubi, right? It's going to be a Redbox feature. It's going to be like something you catch your parents looking at on Roku. Like, but I now I think it's going to have a lot more attention, like for entirely like bad reasons.
It's the stuff of Hollywood legend at this point, because they finished filming, or the accident happened in October 21st of October of 2021. We're now almost 2 years later, and they're going to pick the bet. Like, I mean, people have changed. Like, you're going to be able to say, okay, this is Baldwin pre-accident, this is Baldwin post-accident. Like, the filming will have taken like 3 or 4 years now. Like, you're going to be able to see big differences in the actors, and they're also moving sets. Like, they were shooting in New Mexico, and they're going to be moving to California. Also, the scene that they were rehearsing where Helena Hutchinson was killed, they're not going to be shooting that again. They've rewritten that part of the movie, so they're not going to have to recreate that scene. I don't have any details on that, but that's also happening.
Yeah, I think, there's a few films that exist that are particularly notable for their like continued production despite the loss of their star. I think the one everybody jumps out at is Brandon Lee and Crow, right? But also, I would think of like John Candy and like Gone West, right? That was like his last film he was ever in, and he passed away before it was over. And they like kind of did some goofy shop CGI stuff to kind of get him in there for the last few scenes. It's hard not to watch that stuff with like a, kind of a voyeuristic lens, right? Of like looking for the seams in it. And I think like at that point your film takes on kind of a different meaning, like to a lot of people. They're not watching Rust for like the exciting Alec Baldwin Western drama. They're watching to be like, ooh, I wonder if this, is the scene, or I wonder if this standoff scene was the scene when a gun went off.
Yeah, it's morbid
like
curiosity.
Yeah, right. Like you start watching to like analyze it for entirely the wrong reasons. But that being said, I do think it's worth noting that yes, Hutchins Widower is agreeing to this with full support of it. Like he is obviously like a big part of her estate. And while some family members are very quickly taking issue with this, in a way, I think it's silver lining. Yeah, on the one hand, maybe he's just making a buck, and that's maybe. On the other hand, hear me out. I feel like if my partner was horrifically, something tragic happened on this thing she was working on, like in a way, I would want to see it, right? Like I would want to see that work completed and shown to the public. Like I'd want to see that eventually come to fruition. I would feel like that would mean something to her, but I don't know if Rust going to Tubi is that.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
I have to watch this. I have to watch this movie, especially like if it comes out and it's like super mediocre. I'm like, this poor woman died for this movie that is so mid.
Right? No. Can't say that. All right, maybe. Listen, I do kind of feel the same way, and I think that's not good. And like it just feels weird that this is going to keep going. So. I don't know if we'll talk about it much more on the podcast. I know I've said that before about Rust, and here we are. Like I said, it just kind of keeps coming back, like an old.
We'll be talking about it through the review.
Yeah, or a weird smell in your car that you just can't get rid of. Like it just kind of it won't go away. So keep it here on Osgood for more from Rust. But for now, we need to move into our feature of the episode. I'm going to be taking the summary on this one, and I'm excited to talk about it. I need to open with the preamble that Annie and I are pretty new to this. We have not watched a lot of Indian films. We've not watched a lot of Hindi language action thrillers ever. Not just on the podcast, ever. But a couple weeks ago after we watched RRR, we were really pleased with it. We thought it was really cool. We posted about it. And we got a lot of comments, some constructive, some a little not constructive, but most seem to indicate, hey, if you like this, come into the tent with us. Like, we want to be an inclusive community. Watch more movies like this. Tell us what you think. So here we are with Pathaan. So Pathaan is an international spy thriller starring Pathaan, a very heroic mythological character played by Shah Rukh Khan, who is a international super spy. Man is world renowned as being a legend in the space, as far as I can tell, right? Nobody can ever keep up with him. Nobody knows what his next move is going to be. He's like Jason Bourne on all of the steroids. He's like Superman. He's like Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, right? Tom Cruise. Like Pathaan is like the peak of this stuff. And Pathaan finds out one day that an international mercenary ring led by this incredible awful guy named Jim, very simple name, very kind for us international audiences, Jim, is setting out to basically break all hell loose on India, Pathaan's homeland. I think that's correct, if I remember. It's all subtitles.
It's something that has to do with like the Kashmir province, but yes, basically they're trying to start a war.
Yes, so Pathaan has to go undercover and break into a vault and steal codes and find Jim and take him down before everything goes wrong. He does it with the help of a couple of near and dear friends and professionals in his life. I'm excited to talk about it. Andy, what did you think of Pathaan?
So this is a pretty incredible action movie, and it's one of those things that just like nonstop action, set piece after set piece. Remind me a lot of like Fast and Furious. It was a little bit like Fast and Furious meets Mission Impossible is a style. And there's just like it opens up where Pathaan has been captured and he's being tortured, and of course he like breaks free, fights everyone, escapes on a helicopter. But there's just these like mad chases, and like he's on top of a truck and there's a guy shooting at him from a helicopter, and then another helicopter comes out of nowhere. It's just these kinds of way over the top action pieces, and the plot is pretty standard action movie stuff. So someone's trying to destroy the world. You got to stop him. We meet some fun people along the way. Deepika Padukone plays the kind of female romance interest named Rubina Mohsen, as well as some other fun cameos. The story it jumps around a lot in the time. Like it'll do long flashbacks. So you get a whole lot of story. It gets a little bit confusing to follow. But overall, it was a good time. It's a little long, but there was an intermission, which I loved. It was amazing.
Yeah, worth mentioning. There's only an intermission at Cinemark. AMC does not care about the intermission.
Oh, yours didn't have the intermission?
No, the interval screen comes up, and then 4 seconds later, the movie resumes. There is no moment when you get up and leave. Like they're moving through those showtimes. It's criminal. I really wish I had been able to enjoy it. But yes, like RRR, there is an intermission. Yes, Pathaan is long. Like RRR, it is over 2.5 hours long. 2 hours 47, I think, off the top of my head. There is supposed to be a 10-minute intermission there. If you see it at Cinemark, you'll see it. If you see it at AMC, you won't. And overall, it is a global thriller. Lots of different locations. Turkey, Istanbul, Spain. I think they're in Portugal at one point. India, Palestine, Kashmir. They're all over the place. And like any good international spy thriller, Pathaan is constantly playing this game of cat and mouse with Jim. He's constantly trying to catch him and get one step ahead. And every time he almost gets there, he almost gets the thing he needs, right? He gets through the henchman, he gets over the thing, he gets on the jet ski or does whatever cool thing he has to do. Jim gets away. And it doesn't work the whole movie, of course. Eventually it has to come to a climactic and epic head, which it does. But it is a bit of a struggle watching them evade each other, especially because the movie starts and then it jumps 3 years in the past and then it jumps 2 years forward. And then I think it goes one more year forward to catch up with where it needs to be. And that's a little messy at first, but overall, like it does work for the through line of like character introduction. You meet Pathaan, you meet Pathaan's confidants, you understand how they come together and start working together. And then you get to know a little bit about Jim and finally the big fight at the end, right? That's what we're looking for. Overall, it moves efficiently. But I think like RRR, this is a common trope in this genre that we're finding out is makes for a long movie. It makes it feel big and epic and action.
Yeah, the runtime is definitely part of what makes it feel so big. It does a lot of cliche things. It does them pretty well. But for instance, Pathaan has been enlisted to create a super group of like someone who we need a group that we got to bring people together to fight against whatever. But and so he's putting together an elite team.
The Joint Operation and Covert Research Team, Joker for short.
That's right.
Which is great. Like, yeah, sure, man, Joker, I love it.
So that's a trope we see a lot of times, but it's a lot of fun. Jim is played by John Abraham, who is also an Indian action star. Both of these people have been doing this for like 30 years. Like Shah Rukh Khan first started in like the 90s, and like he's in his late 50s and looks amazing. I thought he was like mid 40s.
Yes, Andy and I are not familiar with any of the actors in this film. We're not familiar with any of the filmmakers. This is new, uncharted waters for us. And one of the things that really stood out was just how good these guys move. And gals. Everybody's tremendous in this movie. But Shah Rukh Khan the choreography's nuts. Like, the fight choreography is so good. And whether they're on wires or doing something in slow motion, like, their movement feels incredibly fast because they're shooting at high frame rates. And then they can speed ramp up and down to slow motion really quickly. So somebody might go in for a kick and then it slows down to slow motion, then speeds right back up and they slam them really fast. Everything feels really punchy. It feels really fast. It feels really epic. It feels very action. It reminded me a lot of how Zack Snyder's films work. Not only in their presentation of action, every hit feeling like huge and big and raw and real, but our characters feeling genuinely like mythological creatures, right? Like Pathaan is like he's like invincible. Like nobody can deal with him. Nobody can stop him. When Pathaan is after you, you might as well hang it up. He's like John Wick times 2. And like
yeah.
I love that it puts him up on that pedestal and never for a second like takes him off. He's funny. He's got a sense of humor. He's modest when he needs to be, which I don't think his American counterparts like Ethan Hunt would be. Like he's kind, but he kicks a lot of ass, and like that's a good thing because it makes for a fun movie.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was gonna say that there's a little bit of romance with this kind of mysterious femme fatale played by Rubina, who there's a lot of crossing and double crossing and undouble crossing that happens. It gets a little confusing. But Rubina, who's played by Deepika Padukone, get her name right here. She's great too. Has a lot of action scenes. There's a great musical number in the middle and also at the end, which is standard for these movies. It's so funny or just different because it's like a music video just happens halfway through the movie, but it's great. It's right before the intermission comes up. But she's a lot of fun. She's got good action scenes. Like I said, they kind of have this semi-romance. Will they? Won't they? That kind of goes on through the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, she's infatuated with Pathaan, or at least it seems in the opening, and he's like, whoa, hey, which again, I appreciate the modesty. It would not, I don't think it'd be that way if this movie's made here. It also would be way more expensive. This movie's made for like $30 million. Like it's crazy. Like it feels like in the action, it feels so much bigger, and especially in the locations where they go, like it feels so much larger. I know a bit of the action is definitely studio stuff. And there's some green screen. There's a sequence on top of a train, which is definitely, also another sequence on a truck now that I think about it. But that stuff looks good. That's the thing. And the action in it plays really well. So I don't really care that, like, they're not actually on top of a truck in Spain speeding down the highway. Especially because that train sequence features an appearance from another spy character from the YRF spy universe, which I'm coming to learn stands for Yash Raj Films spy universe. This is a series of films that all are interconnected with each other, a little like Fast and Furious and Hobbs and Shaw, right? And the character that appears, well, I don't. Is it a spoiler? I guess I don't know if it's a spoiler if I say who it is because it's like halfway through the movie, so maybe I shouldn't. But it's a really cool spy guy who's great, and I like him. And I
a familiar face will show up, and fans of Indian cinema action films will know it's another veteran of the genre. I saw this with an Indian friend of mine. Shout out to Urvashi, who was kind of whispering to me like the whole time. Oh, this is why this person is important. Like this is what like those two were in this movie together. Like so that really helped my understanding of the movie.
Yeah. This movie's presented in Dolby Cinema, which I thought was interesting. It's big and it's loud. And like I love the spectacle of Pathaan. Like, and I think what I like about this over RRR was big and it was bold, but it also like was not a globetrotting modern spy thriller, right? Like that was kind of a historical epic. It had a bit more drama and a bit less action. The action steps on the gas when it needs to. But this movie like definitely has a lot more rad action stuff, and that's the stuff that works the best for my dumb action loving brain. I think the drama hurts a little bit for me. I don't know if you felt that way, but I think a lot of the dramatic stuff, the slow stuff in between the action, it's shot like handheld and it's like shaky cam and it's edited pretty quick to make it to make it move, but it just makes a lot of the stuff feel, I don't want to say unimportant, but like it just feels so much smaller compared to like when the camera hits slow-mo and like you get some awesome 20-minute action sequence. Or like, yeah, like one of the two really well done music videos that are both great. Like in their own way, those are action sequences. Like that stuff's fantastic. Like I guess the highs are so high, it makes the lows feel real low. And I was surprised I felt that way about this because I think RRR handles that a bit smoother.
Yeah, the movie has, like any action movie, it's got to slow down a little bit in some spots, give the audience like a breather. And yeah, that's where we get some story, backstory or side story, or we get filled in on something we didn't know about, and it is a little clumsy. Sometimes I think the only other thing that's kind of a negative for me is, and you mentioned this a little bit, is some of the CGI is a little not great. Some of it's pretty convincing, some of it isn't convincing at all. But it's there in spirit, and it's still makes for exciting sequences.
Right, like those will be the moments this movie feels its budget, because it's not in like the physical movement. There's a couple of really, really great sequences in here. One shot in particular, I still don't know how they did it. It's got to be VFX. It's the opening fight scene with Pathaan. He's a hostage and he breaks away from his captors, and he just unleashes himself on these guys in this room with him. These poor dudes who can't get away from the guy. Like throws a knife at one guy, kicks another guy, throws a chair through a dude, gets a gun. And there's a sequence when like a shotgun goes up in the air, and the camera locks on the shotgun and follows it as it tumbles through the air, spins down. Pathaan catches it, aims it at a guy, cocks it, pulls the trigger. And it's all one smooth sequence that was like so slick. And I was like, oh my God, it's in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's so great. Like, and I love that this movie hits these high notes. Like it totally goes for it in a way that like I do not expect watching Ant-Man next week to see anything as exciting as like that one shotgun shot in this movie. And this movie's constantly gets 3 hours long. Like it's constantly going for it. And I love it. Like, God, I wish American directors like took a page from this. Like, this is good stuff. I was really pleased, like overall, with how well it moved. I did, like I said, a little slow in the mids. When it slows down a lot. But when it picks back up, it's a really good time.
Yeah, it has so much energy, and like the highs really outweigh any of the lows.
No, yeah, it absolutely does. Really pleased with Pathaan. Any other thoughts or recommendations on this one, Andy?
I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Pathaan?
Yeah, I would. It was a lot of fun. Really great action. These are legends of the genre of Indian action films. I think this is actually maybe a little bit more accessible than Triple R was. Because if you've seen an American action movie, this is going to follow a lot of that with, a lot of very different cultural things, but it's going to be more familiar with you than like I said, Triple R requires a lot of, I think, cultural and historical context. But it's a lot of fun. It's got an intermission way, which that's probably one of my favorite parts of my experience. It was a good time. I'm looking forward to seeing more, Indian action films.
Yeah, I like Pathaan a lot. I really enjoyed watching this in a theater too. Like that's definitely the best place to see it. I saw a couple people comment on our RR review that said like RR is not made for the small screen. Like you got to see it big. And we watched it on a pretty big screen for what it's worth. But you're right, we watched it at home. Like this though, like played great in a big movie theater. Like tons of fun. Also really enjoyed even the trailers in front of the movie. Every trailer I saw before Pathaan looked better than like half the trailers I've seen in recent memory, excluding, of course, our supersized trailer park, which we'll get into just a minute. But like, I like what's happening here. I feel like I've seen two really good features, Triple R in this. I want to see more. I don't know when we'll get to seeing more, but we will. We are about to pick up into summer. Keep it here on Off Script for more. Pathaan's good stuff, and RR's good stuff, and I'm excited to tell people more about this. I think I'm a convert. I think I'm into it. I think it's really cool. I don't know. Like it's just there's something there's something exciting about it. Like that I was thinking about watching it. Like I feel like movies like from Marvel are so stale now, right? Like and it takes a really special one to break out and be different. And Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was definitely different. Like that one felt new and felt like a different kind of energy. But like almost every Marvel movie, I feel really skeptical going in. It's hard for me to get excited about it. But like not only was I stoked about Pathaan, like I had a great time and came out and was like, dude, I can't wait to tell people about this movie. Like where's American action cinema turning up energy like Pathaan? Like I don't get it anymore. And like I don't know. I think it's cool that these movies take like so much inspiration from films that are already becoming tired, right? To make something that like feels so fresh and like feels so new. And like Pathaan's good stuff. With that, we should move into our middle segment here. Andy, what's it time for?
It's time for the death of cinema. So today we're going to be talking about Disney.
Yes.
Disney recently had their earnings call earlier this week, and they had a lot of positive financial news, but also some bad news as well. Disney dropped 2.4 million subscribers in their first loss ever of the service, and Bob the Butcher, Bob Iger, is here. He's cutting jobs, he's cutting content, he's cutting spending, but he's also here to save Disney, and we're going to get into it.
So I am the resident, I think, Disney nerd on the podcast. Andy knows a bit about it, of course, just by doing a show with me for a while. I think I have a bit of insight as to what's going on here. But yeah, the headline is Disney Plus drops 2.4 million subscribers in their first loss ever, right? No small number. And Andy and I have talked about for a while on this podcast. Disney Plus's growth chart has been constantly up since it launched. This is their first step backwards. 2.4 million subs is no small loss. If you subscribe to Disney Plus, you may be feeling a little bit of this though. Maybe you're like Andy and I, and you're finding that you're probably not opening Disney Plus as often as you used to. Maybe that initial kind of wave of being impressed by having access to the Disney Vault is kind of come and gone. And for what it's worth, you might not be watching as many Marvel shows as you were. Andy, do you have? I'm sure you have an example. This has happened to you. I know it's happened to me.
I've cut back on a lot of my Disney Plus watching. I didn't watch She-Hulk or Miss Marvel, and I didn't watch Andor, which was apparently a really good Star Wars show. But see, that's part of the problem is I had to sit through a number of mediocre shows, and then I didn't really want to watch the good one when it came out because I'd been burned already.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I watched the first couple Marvel shows. We watched Loki for sure, which I'll probably tune in for season 2 of. We watched Mandalorian season 1. Season 2 is a bit of a struggle. We just got to a point where we just kind of got tired, right? You get burnt out on it a little bit. And this stuff is the perfect thing to point at when people ask, hold on, why did Disney hire Bob Chapek as their CEO and then axe him 2 years later? This is why. Because they saw this coming before all of us. Disney has not been growing. They have been starting to stagnate. They're starting to slide backwards. And like any big company, that's unacceptable, right? That can't happen. It has to be growth forever. They have to figure out how to get more people. And the answer is pretty simple. And I think Iger is opening up possibilities. We'll talk about more of that in a second. With his suggestions that, hey, maybe we need to start going different directions. The problem is Disney has been making just a lot of the same content, squeezing the same blood from the same stone over and over and over again. Chapek actually said this was a big part of his strategy. He's going to lean on legacy properties and really embrace nostalgia to get people to watch something that they know and love. People are going to tune in for something they're familiar with. We just saw the Super Bowl. Nostalgia ads are in. People love it. The problem is, now we have 4 Star Wars shows, and now we have 8 Marvel shows, and people are just burnt on it. None of it feels special anymore. It feels okay, it's just another Marvel show. Okay, it's just another Star Wars show. That was the big reason nobody could get around to watching Andor. Nobody wanted to. We all saw Mandalorian, and we all saw Book of Boba Fett, and we're all Obi-Wan, and it's okay, now what, Where is this going into a new space? It's a shame because I think Andor is that new space. I heard nothing but good things about that show. I'm sure at some point I'll watch it, but I'm just tired, right? Franchise fatigue is stronger in Disney's tent more so than anybody else's.
Well, it sets in also when you have mediocre content, the Obi-Wan show had 3 good episodes and then 3 filler episodes. And it's you got to have every single one be great. I'm watching The Last of Us right now, which I think a lot of people are, and every single episode is incredible. It's an incredible episode of TV every week, and you don't feel like you're just sitting through it until something good happens.
I think it's one of the ways this is most evident is not in their Disney Plus offerings, but in their films. Everybody I've told this year that Disney is doing 5 Marvel movies, 5 comic book movies. Out of everybody I've told, how many do you think were excited? Absolutely 0. Every single one of them had the same reaction. Sigh.
What did I say? I said, wake me in phase 6.
Yeah.
Wake me when we get to Fantastic Four.
We never got out of phase snore. That was it. We fell into it, and we're still in a deep sleep. And maybe Ant-Man will be that thing, right? We're reviewing it next week. I said at the end of the Pathaan review, I'm a little skeptical, but I still think, hey, maybe it'll have some heat. We're not going to talk about the Rotten score, but I think people are just getting tired of this stuff, and that means people aren't subbing as much, which means in the long run, people aren't going to the parks as much. Like, Disney fundamentally is a company built on two things: nostalgia and really cool new technology. And all they've been doing is nostalgia lately, and they've been doing a little new technology. And a lot of it's hidden. A lot of it's tough to see, right? Your average viewer knows nothing about what is that new light tech they use for the Mandalorian, the Void.
Yeah,
they
like
used it for the
video game thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They used it for the Batman. It's all over that movie, and it looks amazing. And it looks amazing in the Mandalorian. Like, that's a huge step in like filmmaking technology. Avatar 2. It takes incredible strides in like CGI and what's possible. That is a Disney production. But on the ground, like, your average viewer doesn't know any of that. They don't feel any of it. And like, Disney's got to make people feel stuff. That's the only way they go to the parks and they buy Mickey Mouse t-shirts. You gotta feel it. You gotta want it. Which also leads to them laying off 7,000 employees, which is crazy. 3% of their workforce. Now, that's global. It's worth mentioning. This is not just at the Disney Plus office. This is not just at the Pixar office. This is not just Disney Shanghai or Disney World or Disneyland. Like, this is all over the place. But they're tightening things up. And I don't think that's a good thing for anybody, because, you know, those parks are already pretty expensive, and Disney Plus ain't getting any cheaper. So when you say, hey, we're cutting back on our end, I would hope that would mean, well, I would imagine that would mean some kind of noticeable cut on the consumer end, right? Like, in some fashion.
Never, not in this lifetime.
Well, I think, right, no, never. Except, of course, in how they announced their next films. Toy Story 5 in the works at Disney. Andy, I can't watch another Toy Story movie. I can't do it.
The first three are, it's a perfect trilogy, and then, like, 4 was fine. Like, wasn't bad, but it wasn't, like, a classic. And that's what that's what Pixar is known for making, or was known, at least for a while, was that everything that come out is going to be like a new classic film. And now, they're going back to the vault, and like, let's make more sequels, more things that are familiar. And oh gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Like, on the one, and like I said, on the one hand, like, these are CGI films and they're really cool stuff. They're also making a Frozen 3, which doesn't really surprise me. Zootopia 2 is a surprise. I didn't think they were going to announce that. They did. They're making Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, Zootopia 2, and they're leaning on the nostalgia thing, but hopefully attracting some new audiences, I guess. Young kids, right, will be able to watch that stuff, but God, it's a lot of legacy sequels. It's a lot of legacy sequels. And for those who may not remember, Toy Story 2 was supposed to be direct to DVD. Toy Story 2 was a DVD feature up until they screened a rough cut of it in front of a board of Disney execs who lost their minds because Pixar had done so well. And they were like, we got to put this in theaters. Toy Story 3, nobody thought it would work. We were like, it's been too long. Who cares about Toy Story anymore? And it came out and was actually a really sweet thing. And Toy Story 4 was a stretch that is, I think, fine as a movie, and actually features some good animation, but like, it just doesn't have the smoke. And like, I don't know where Toy Story 5 is going. Like, we don't, yeah. I don't know. I mean, Toy Story 4 fundamentally, you know what? I don't need to talk more about Toy Story. It's fine. What I think is interesting about this, go ahead.
Well, part of what is in danger here is part of the reason that Disney is so important culturally is that it's so special to so many people's childhood. But the problem is that kind of depends on new properties. Like, like Frozen is a good example. That came out in 2013 or so. Massive, massive hit. Everyone every kid, like, under the age of 12, singing it for 2 years. Yeah. And those those kids are going to grow up and always remember that movie. But now, what Disney movie in the last, few years can you look at and be like, oh yeah, that movie represents my childhood? Not a whole lot. Nothing really comes to mind. And if Disney doesn't, I mean, it's fine for them to make sequels, but if they don't make original characters and properties and stories that new young kids can jump on without having to watch 4 other movies, like, they're going to be in trouble in like 10 to 20 years.
Right. And like, that legacy time is the biggest, like, it's the biggest functional way Disney makes money. It's parents telling their kids, hey, I loved this Disney movie growing up. You should watch this Disney movie, right? It's parents taking their kids to Disneyland. It's parents like showing them, hey, this meant a lot to me and it meant a lot to my parents. Like when they were showing me this stuff, Disney is coming up on 100 years old. I mean, that is a big deal. Like if they're going to stay relevant, like they have to somehow move out of the constant sequel space, but also continue making profits at the pace when they've been making constant sequels. So like it's a weird line, and it seems like they're open to some possibilities. Bob Iger said that everything is on the table right now for Disney to make moves, including a potential sale of Hulu, which is insane to me. Disney owns Hulu. If you don't know that, that's the reason they can package Disney and Hulu and ESPN all together. Disney owns all of them, or at least they own a majority stake in Hulu. They have for a while. The idea of selling that and getting out of the Hulu business seems so bananas to me. Right? Like that doesn't make any sense to me on paper. What do you think?
Hulu is helpful for Disney because that's where they can put more adult content on, and they inherited a bunch of that whenever they bought 20th Century Fox. And also just sometimes things like Deadpool or something, that's where it, like, you can't have that on Disney. Disney Plus, like, Hulu's at the right place for that, so it gives them an adult outlet. So it'd be very tough for them not to have that.
Yeah, I think Hulu is like a really clean space for them to platform like other features, adult features, tons of television content. I mean, that was originally like Hulu's big lean, right? You can get next day television like at no additional cost on Hulu. You couldn't get that anywhere else. And with their pickup of the 20th Century Fox property through the pandemic, like they've got a lot of features over on Hulu, a ton of different brand deals, like with different companies who make content. Hulu boasts 48 million subscribers right now. I don't even know who you sell that to. Like, I guess you just sell some of your shares, right, and get out of it. But like, that seems like a really, really low return on like a whole lot of offer. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what he means when he says that. I think the man might be losing his marbles. And for what it's worth, Bob Iger is only supposed to be in for a couple years. They're still working on finding his replacement. We already played this game once with Bob Chapek. I have no idea who replaces this man. I really don't. I don't know who's going to pick this up after he leaves it, but somebody's gotta figure out what's next for Disney. And I feel very confidently in saying, like, the answer is in new content. It's not in repackaged, repurposed Toy Story 5 Mandalorian season 3 content. Like, it's got to be in new stuff. Mandalorian was huge. People were so stoked for like a new hero that's different and a different energy. And yeah, it was in the Star Wars universe, but it was good. Andor is good stuff. WandaVision, Loki. Like, there's a way to make content that is entirely new and different and fresh inside a universe that people already know and love, right? You could fill it full of references and Easter eggs. But it's also incredibly easy to miss. Like, and you can't keep missing, guys. You gotta get back on this because people aren't going to come back to Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's like in the kind of animation renaissance they had in the 90s, where they had The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Hercules, The Lion King. Like, you gotta make new stuff.
Yeah. And you can't be afraid to like stride boldly into the future, especially when you got a war chest as deep as the mouse does. With that being said, jump into our final segment. And do you want to intro this for us?
It's time for our Super Bowl supersized trailer park.
Perfect. I guess I can't play like Fox Sports music or anything, right? Over that,
Probably not.
No, I probably honestly, I'm not even sure I can put the word Super Bowl on screen. But you know what? We're here. What are we talking about? Like I said, 11 spots in the open. That's a big claim. We got them all here. What's first on the list?
All right.
Actually, hold on. Wait. Did you even watch the Super Bowl?
No,
I didn't either. Okay, cool. Just want to get that out of the way. We're modern men, all right? I'd rather stare at a wall than watch live TV in 2023. Like, I'm absolutely not watching.
Earlier today, I had 2 Twitch streams going. One, I was following a chess tournament, and one was a video game thing on my computer. And I was like, that's where I am entertainment-wise in 2023, is I'm watching streams. I'm not as far from cable as you could be.
Yeah.
There were a couple... We're going to be looking at several full trailers, and then a number of TV spots that we saw air during the Super Bowl. Our first trailer this actually came out right before the Super Bowl last week. It's called Air, and this is like the most eye-rolling dad movie I've ever seen. This is the story of Nike developing their shoe with Michael Jordan in the 80s. Stars Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. It's like Good Will Hunting, but not. But they're Ben Affleck is the president of Nike, and Matt Damon is the kind of scout who's trying. The company's under you. How are we going to save Nike? And he's like, I got this idea, and I've been watching tapes, and there's this. And I hate movies like this because they're like, there's some guy named Michael Jordan. Anyone know that name? No, me neither. And it looks fine. It looks fine. There's like movies like this. I'm like, there's no conflict. Like, that Michael Jordan goes on to be a huge, one of the greatest to ever play the game, and you know that Nike becomes ultra successful with his shoe line. So, what is there to watch this movie?
Right. There's no drama. Like, because you already know what's gonna happen, right? Like it's like the sports what do you call this? The sports legacy film. It's like a music biopic. Like, all the beats, you know exactly where it's going. For what it's worth, like Ben Affleck directing is, kind of fun.
He has a terrible wig. He's got a terrible wig in this movie. Oh my god!
It reminds me of the last Ridley Scott movie, The Last Duel. Right? He's like the king, and he's like sitting at his desk, like, well, everything sucks. And then Matt Damon comes in. He's like, we got to do this thing, and he's like, yeah, okay, servant, go on. Like, it's the same gag. Like, he's sitting at his desk. He owns Nike. Matt Damon's like, I got the thing. It's gonna save us. And like, I do think the story of Nike's pretty rad for what it's worth. Like, if you're a sneakerhead, like, for sure, there are a lot of sick kicks in this movie. Viola Davis is in it. Jason Bateman's in it. Notably, I think they don't actually show Michael in this movie.
There's no way they could afford him.
Right. Like, well, not real Michael Jordan, of course, but like whoever the young Michael Jordan is, they just show his mom, Viola Davis, who's like, you got to take care of my son, which is great. Like, I appreciate her going to town, trying to get the bag. But like, we've seen this movie before, right? Adam Sandler made that movie on Netflix, basketball movie. We watched King Richard, Will Smith with Serena and Venus Williams, right? Like, they're gonna be stars someday, and like, we all know it's gonna work out. And like, I do think Air looks fine. It looks fine, but it's
like a Saturday afternoon, eat a burrito and put it on streaming.
It's put it on stream and do your laundry kind of movie, right? Like,
watch it with the family. There's a terrible like towards the end of the trailer. There's this terrible line where Ben Affleck asks, he's like, "Well, do you got a name for the shoe line? What do you got?" And Matt Damon's like, "Well, I'm thinking Air Jordan." And Ben Affleck's like, "That'll never catch on." Well, like, I hate it because it's so lazy. It's so unbelievably lazy to use hindsight to like name all these things, which of course are the huge deals now.
Yeah, the age of the celebrity director is dead, and it's no more apparent than with the release of Elizabeth Banks' Cocaine Bear and the announcement of Ben Affleck's Air. Like, both of these are films that are so gimmicky, and it used to be the gimmick was the celebrity directing it, right? It's Ben Affleck's feature. It's Elizabeth Banks for first time the director's chair. No longer. Now it's like, what do we think's gonna pop? What's gonna make some memes? What's gonna be hot? That's what we're gonna do. And like, right? it just doesn't get me very excited. I was so much more stoked for the Pathaan trailer than I was for the trailer for Air. Different feature, obviously one's very dramatic. And for what it's worth, yeah, I would like to hear a little about the Nike store. We'll probably end up covering it on the show, but like, this first trailer didn't do it for me. I do like the 80s garb though. Very, very period appropriate. Lots of goofy suits.
I feel like it would work better as a documentary, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I'd be more interested in that.
I think surely there's one out there, right? Maybe not. I don't know. I can't imagine the rights for Air must have been a mess, right? You got the Jordan estate. Nike had to be all over it. Like, I'm sure getting that all organized was a nightmare. So hopefully the film stands up. Our next trailer is, of course, a Super Bowl spot for Fast X. Fast X is the 10th film in the Fast and Furious franchise. We've seen a little bit from it, but the Friday before the Super Bowl, this dropped. Everybody was hype. It has everybody in it short of The Rock.
Minutes.
That's right. That's like ever been in the Fast and Furious films. It features, of course, Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto, trying to take care of his family, but he's got some unfinished business, and that's when Jason Momoa shows up, a victim of the events of Fast 5, who has come across 5 films out of nowhere to blow up Dom's whole life and reclaim. I don't know. I don't even really know. That just kind of seems to be it. Lots of action, lots of cars. There's even one cute sequence in there where they have like a classic street race from Fast and Furious, which I dig. Good Lord, Andy, what a packed trailer. What do you think?
Man, it's got everything in the kitchen sink. It doesn't seem like they're doing time travel like I was really hoping they would do. But yeah, everyone. I mean, the cast list is massive. Basically everyone that you've seen in previous films, plus newcomers. Rita Moreno is in it, making her debut in the Fast and Furious franchise. Jason Momoa looking a little weird. He doesn't have a beard. He's losing the Khal Drogo look. He looks like Vin Diesel looked in the previous film, which wasn't great. Vin Diesel looks a lot better. It looks like he's like gotten in a little bit better shape in this movie. There's also a whole lot of CGI de-aging going on. Yeah, like for those watching at home, this picture of Jason Momoa, you could tell me that was 10 different actors, and I would believe you because he looks like a bunch of different people.
If he shaved his head and shaved the beard, unrecognizable. I mean, already before, like, I think, but he just put on a few pounds and like without that jawline and like without the chiseled cheeks, it's hard to tell. it's hard to tell that's Jason Momoa. Maybe he wants to get into big drama, right? Maybe this is Big Dave move. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been. Let me just read down this cast list really quick. Vin Diesel, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese Gibson, Michelle Rodriguez, Sung Kang, Ludacris, Jason Momoa, John Cena, Jason Statham, Rita Moreno, Helen Mirren, Brie Larson, Charlize Theron, Michael Rooker, Cardi B, Natalie Emmanuel. I mean, Scott Eastwood.
It's so insane. Yeah, like it's crazy. I mean, there's people in there that like they didn't even really announce. Alan Richardson is in there. He's a star of Amazon's Reacher. Like normally, like having a star of an Amazon series would be like main billing. He's barely in there. I think he has one shot in the whole thing. It's crazy. Like I can't believe how many people are in this film. And of course, this is supposed to be the first of two parts. I'm guessing they're going to kind of do the Dune thing. They're not really going to tell general audiences till they're in the theater that, oh, hey, this is part one. Come back for part two. The poster says the end of the road begins, but like, you know, God, it's such a bad It's terrible. Anyway, listen, I'm as excited for Fast X as I was for Fast 9 and Fast 8 and Fast 7 and Fast 6. Okay. I think my level of interest has kind of remained the same. Maybe I'm a little bit more skeptical now than I used to be. Fast X, it's coming, right? I'm sure we will cover it on the show. Andy, what's next?
The Flash, which I have been looking forward to for a while. Wasn't sure what we were going to get. Trailer comes out, and let me tell you, I am hyped out of my mind. Hype train taken off in orbit. Like
hype
the hype spaceship.
Space shuttle. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So what we see Barry Allen kind of running through different timelines, running into the past. And canonically, Barry Allen's mother is killed, and that's part of what actually turns him into the Flash. And so he wants to try to go back in time and change things, save her from getting killed. When he does, he seems to, break kind of the timeline. And to not get too into the weeds, we actually end up meeting some other heroes, namely Michael Keaton's Batman, who I thought was just going to maybe have a cameo in this film, and it looks like he has a pretty significant role. He showed up, the Danny Elfman theme started playing, and I just about lost my mind. We also see an appearance of Supergirl, played by Sasha Calle, who we haven't seen anything from her on screen, and most notably, it looks like they're going to be doing battle with Man of Steel's General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, from the first 2013 Man of Steel Superman movie, which kicked off the whole DCEU. So it looks like they've woven his character kind of back into things. Also, an appearance by Anche Trau as Feora Ul, which I was happy to see. But anyways, it looks epic. It looks crazy. There are two Ezra Millers in the movie. I'm super stoked for this. Zach?
I can't believe how good this movie looks because it has everything going against it, right? Like the DC universe is collapsing. Half the stars of the former Justice League have functionally disgraced the franchise. and left in terrible terms. Ezra Miller has a crime spree record longer than like a 5-star GTA run. And Michael Keaton is back as Batman, even though he was supposed to be, I guess, was in Batgirl. They shot that film. Here he is as the Bat once again. I can't believe how good this movie looks. It looks so cool. Like it is easily looks like probably the coolest film of the show. Like of the Super Bowl, this one stands out the most. The trailer's way too long. It has a whole inner trailer for Michael Keaton Batman in it, which is really weird. But somehow it looks rad. It's probably not even like. It's funny. This isn't the first time DC has played this trick on me. There are a number of DC films I thought looked rad, and then I saw them and was like, "Wow, that did not work." Somehow this one looks cool, and it's weird because Flash is the comedic relief of Justice League, right? Like he's the butt of the joke usually, and somehow this looks like the greatest feature ever. Like I'm so bummed this isn't coming out in like
5
under
years
better
ago.
under better circumstances. Yeah,
Right.
Because there's a world where like this thing does something really cool and kicks off something really special. And the funny thing is, maybe they're there, right? Maybe the world's colliding, the changing of the timeline. Maybe this is where we make the jump into the James Gunn verse. But we're also supposed to have another Aquaman movie, and Blue Beetle is coming out, and so it's not quite going to be that. But whatever's happening here, uniquely, I'm excited for it. I wish I wasn't supporting Ezra Miller by watching it, but here we are.
And moving on, what's our next one?
Oh, yeah, God. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Speaking of James Gunn, boy, oh boy, his last Marvel feature is coming down the pipe with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. When Peter Quill, according to IMDb here, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe and one of their own one more time before it all goes down. This trailer is very final. Like they make it very obvious. This is the last one. Like they really lean in the dialogue in it. It's Rocket Raccoon explaining, we're going out. We got one more ride, one more chance for glory.
One last, yeah.
Yeah. Like the tagline of the movie, I can't read it on the poster here, but like even that once more with feeling like it just feels very obvious that like, this is the one. We're wrapping this up. This is going to be the end of it. And visually, it looks spectacular. Like I think Gunn has really emerged as a talent in this space. I feel very confident that Guardians 3 is probably going to be just as good as Guardians 1 and 2. I haven't heard the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special on Disney Plus was worth watching. Like for what I know, this is going to be rad. Zoe Saldana's back. Batista's back one more time. Vin Diesel is Groot, scooping up one more paycheck. Bradley Cooper is Rocket. I mean, we got the whole crew. Karen Gillan's back. I think it'll be good stuff, at least from what I could tell. I hope it'll have more Gunn and less Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't get a whole lot of plot, but we do get kind of feeling and tone. And you're exactly right. It seems like, gang's getting back together for one last heist or one last job, whatever. We may not all survive, but at least we'll have each other. I think this looks great. I'm pretty excited about this too.
Yeah, like I think it'll be something spectacular. I'm looking forward to Will Poulter's Adam Warlock. Supposedly supposed to be much more like Rocket Raccoon oriented, which is a good time. Like I don't know, Guardians 3, like Guardians 1 and 2 are solid. I feel confident about Guardians 3. I hope it's a good, satisfying ending for what's going on. I guess now we jump into TV spots. That's going to be our 4 big trailers from here. It's like what they call the big game spot, right? Like studio buys a 30-second slot to advertise in the Super Bowl. They just give you a little bit of something. This is how Old was revealed last year at the Super Bowl and Shyamalan's last feature before Knock at the Cabin, of course. And this year we got some exciting ones. They're not too shabby. Andy, you want to you break into the first one here?
Yeah, we got a 30-second spot for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This didn't really reveal too much. We do get Indiana Jones saying, "Oh, you again" to Mads Mikkelsen's kind of Nazi character. It looks like they have duked it out before in the past in young Indy. I'm still holding out on time travel on this movie as well. We'll see. The CGI looks not super great. Phoebe, we see some scenes with Phoebe Waller-Bridge again as well. It looks fine. It looks fine.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with Andy. I still think it's going to be young Indy fights old Indy, and I will stand up and dump my popcorn out and walk out of the movie theater, and that will be the last Indiana Jones film I watch. Now, I will obviously watch the whole thing, but I'm definitely skeptical. I shouldn't be. Like, for what it's worth, the trailer looks solid. God, that John Williams score does so much work in the Indy 5 trailer. Like, it's so sweeping and bombastic. And in many ways, Indy 5 is not only Harrison Ford saying goodbye to the character, but John Williams wishing a long farewell to his career. This is his last score, which is a really big deal. I can't wait to hear it. I'm almost more excited about the score than I am the feature. But like I told Andy last week, I've been watching Apple TV's new show, Shrinking, and Harrison Ford is in that show. And he's good in it, by the way. I would recommend if you like Harrison Ford. But he's sitting in like every scene. He is sitting in nearly every scene in Shrinking. Or if he's standing, he very quickly moves to sitting. I don't know how this man is turning out an action feature. I also don't know how he's going on to play Captain William Thunderbolt Ross in the new Captain America movie. How is he doing this?
He just needs to be a government suit. Then
I think so. I think he's supposed to get into a bit. I mean, maybe you're right. Like maybe that's what's going on in that. In Shrinking, he's a therapist. He's very low key. Indy's big though. Like I don't know how he's gonna. I don't know how my man's gonna rally for it, but we'll see. Looks all right.
Yeah. We also saw a spot for Creed 3, which comes out I think March 3rd. Creed was creeding. It was fine. Lots of boxing. That looks pretty great. Great though. Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan, both huge in that.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel very confident that Adonis Creed is gonna lose in Creed 3. I mean, maybe it's just me. He kind of loses in the first Creed, right? But not really. They're like, well, he lost the fight, but he won the night. Like it's some goofy line like that. And then in 2, he gets like a bunch of his ribs broken, but he ends up gassing out the other guy and winning. He hasn't really lost. I'm like, Rocky lost, dude. Like Rocky had to lose because he had to come back in the next feature. I'm telling you, this is Michael B. Jordan's first like directorial Creed feature. They're letting him direct this one. He's getting his toes in the water. He loses at the end. Jonathan Majors wins it. Who looks fierce in this trailer, by the way. Dude, Jonathan Majors looks like a monster in this trailer. He's swinging on dudes like Mike Tyson. Like, good God. And I'll never understand how these guys are supposed to be the same weight class to box. I guess it's what do you call it? There's a term for it when people
like
aren't quite the same weight
heavyweight.
class. Yeah, something like that. Either way,
pound
like
for pound or something.
yeah, either way, like this movie looks cool, but I'm telling you, I think he loses at the end. That's my hot pick. I would be surprised if he wins. Jonathan Majors looks like an absolute monster. What's next?
Let's try to get through these a little bit faster. We got a plumbing commercial for the Super Mario Brothers movie. It wasn't an actual trailer. It was a plumbing commercial, legitimately, which complete with a website where you can go in and request plumbing services. It's a lot of fun. It's part of viral marketing. This movie's going to make $1 billion as well.
Dude, this movie's going to make $1 billion. Yeah, a Super Mario Brothers trailer is like a goofy direct-to-TV commercial in universe for the Super Mario Brothers plumbing service starring Mario and Luigi. They got a goofy van. They got a little testimonial from a woman who's read some goofy line about how they drained her pipes but not her bank account. It's crazy just the detail that's in here. This woman is the voice of the original Princess Peach on the cartoon. The rap is from like the Mario TV show in the 90s. Like this movie's going to make $1 billion, billion with the B. There is not a world where this movie doesn't make $1 billion. Next up, 65. So 65 is a bit gimmicky. It stars Adam Driver and what I think would otherwise be like a small direct to streaming sci-fi film. Adam Driver is a young astronaut who is stranded on a remote planet 65 million years ago. He finds one other survivor from his shipwreck, a young girl. The two of them have to survive on this strange off-world planet. And the twist, as revealed in the movie or in the trailer, is it's actually planet Earth 65 million years ago, and they're dealing with dinosaurs. So you get a bit of like Jurassic World sci-fi fun. It looks okay. It looks like there's like 2 or 3 kind of action sequences when really all they're doing is running away, right? You're not gonna fist fight a T-Rex. So you know, it looks all right, but I worry if anything, it's got the old problem, right? The whole gimmicks in the trailer. Who cares when we already know what's happening?
I'm slowly starting to come around to it. It kind of it's looking better the longer it goes. So I'm tentatively excited about it. The thing is, it comes out the same day as Scream 6, so
Well then that kind of
that same week.
God, well, I can't believe they're competing with Scream 6. That seems crazy to me. But, or to each their own. I mean, dinosaurs look cool, I guess.
We also got a spot for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, or Rise of Beasts, whatever it's called. Nothing new. We didn't. It was just rehashing a lot of things that we already saw in the first trailer from that we saw about a month ago or so. It looks fine. It looks way better than the other Transformers movies.
Yeah, I'm not too stoked on the new Transformers. I know people said Bumblebee was rad, but like I kind of stopped watching these after like the second or third one, I think. I don't know. I like Michael Bay just fine. I like Anthony Ramos actually. He's in Hamilton and
In the Heights.
In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda musical, of course. Yeah, but Transformers is Transformers, right? It's all spectacle. I kind of feel the same way as I do about Fast X. Like I'm sure it's fine. I like car movies. It's not about the car movies. It's about the gimmicks around the car movie. What's next?
Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I just watched this one today. This is going to be a big action special effects thing. I wasn't really sold by the first trailer, but this spot definitely was more exciting to me. Definitely going to be lots of wizardry and, like I said, special effects. It's not my cup of tea, but it does look better than it did.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think this movie will do fine. I think D&D fans are pretty dedicated and will probably turn out en masse. Dungeons and Dragons is doing better now than ever before. Wizards of the Coast is killing it, despite some internal policy changes that have been flagrant among the community. Yeah, I think this movie will be fine. Also stars Michelle Rodriguez. It's really nice to see her outside of the Fast movies. She was in Avatar 1. I think she's fine. I really wish she got more work. Like I don't think Michelle Rodriguez is bad at all. So I hope she gets a lot more FaceTime and doesn't end up like sacrificing herself for the good of the squad or something ridiculous like she ends up doing in seemingly most of her features. Lastly, we got to talk about The Little Mermaid. 30-second spot for The Little Mermaid. Really short, really quick. This is more that we can see of the movie. You see more familiar scenes. It's functionally shot for shot remake, right? We see Halle Bailey, our star. Glad to see her getting out more instead of just kind of like that opening song number we saw in the teaser. You just get a flash of Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, a terrible pick in my opinion. I like Melissa McCarthy, okay, but like I feel like there's so much more talent.
Did no one else audition for this?
Yeah, or did you guys just do it for the meme? Like, what were you thinking? But like, it's fine. Maybe she's great in it. And I also don't know the guy who plays Eric, but what I do know is, God, this movie looks underlit. Like it's not just me.
So dark,
people are starting to point out on Twitter. A lot of film nerds are like, man, the lighting in this movie is really dark. They brightened up some stuff for sure. A lot of the underwater stuff, you can get more sunlight, but like it's dark at the bottom of the ocean, and I get that. And it's dark at night when some of these scenes take place, and I get that. But like, dude, we got to be able to see people. Like, it just looks muddy right now. So I hope they tidy it up. I hope they clean it up. Andy, what do you think?
I don't think it looks very good, and especially after Avatar doing all their stuff underwater, like they really did raise the bar for underwater effects, and a lot of people are pointing out like this looks like no one is underwater, like it's not convincing at all. It just like it doesn't look super great. Maybe the full trailer will look better, but which I don't know why they didn't. I mean, it's probably too soon. They'll probably release it next month. But yeah, it doesn't look super great. And yeah, I agree. Melissa McCarthy, kind of a mediocre pick. Could have been anything.
Yeah, she's fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure they'll CGI her up and she'll look great. That wraps the Super Bowl. Man, we had a lot to get through. I know we rushed at the end, but for what it's worth, hey, these studios are rushing. Look, it's only $7 million for 30 seconds of ad time at the Super Bowl. I don't get why Guardians gets a 2-minute trailer and Little Mermaid gets 30 seconds, but it's fine. I guess they're still working it out. You make a good point. Avatar really does show people up on the underwater stuff. It's hard to beat. With that being said, I think that about wraps our show. Andy, what are we watching next week?
We are entering Marvel Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's the newest entry in that. We will be meeting Kang the Conqueror. That's out this week in theaters only. And also, we'll be watching the horror movie that's really become kind of viral in concept, Winnie the Pooh: Blood and Honey. Which is having a very limited theatrical run. We're going to be catching that as well. Then that's the kind of macabre horror retelling of Winnie the Pooh, where Pooh and Piglet, or Yeah, they go on like a murderous spree. It's basically a slasher film with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Great concept, and I'm actually seeing it tonight in like an hour.
Oh, okay, that's right. You are going to see it tonight. Okay, well, no wonder we're moving through the end of the show so quick. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see that one. Really limited screenings. If you're in a small town, you probably won't catch it, but Andy and I will be here with the review next week. And Ant-Man, with the start of the new Marvel phase, right? This is the thing. This is the heat, and Kang's supposed to be a big deal in it, so hopefully it's a good time. If you enjoyed the show today, if you liked our review of Pathaan, if you didn't like it, if you like our Super Bowl spots, our thoughts on Disney, or any other stories we covered this week, give us a follow on Facebook, where we live stream the show every Tuesday or Wednesday in this case, because again, moving. Apologies. Check us out on YouTube, where we upload our live streams after the fact. We're on Twitter, or on Instagram. We're on all the usual social media spots. And of course, you can listen to the audio version of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartMedia, Amazon. I think you can ask your Alexa devices to play Off-Script Film Review, and it'll work, which is bananas. I cannot explain the black magic wizardry Andy's been doing in the background to make that happen. But you can find us in all those usual places. The biggest way to support Off-Script, us right here on the show, is just subscribe to the podcast. That's all you got to do. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Movies are expensive. Podcasts aren't. And you can support us by following the show and keeping up with what we're doing. You can also check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com, and you can email us correspondence at offscriptfilmreview.com. From all of us at Offscript, the home of Bold Cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.